representatives, or mainly the journalist who comes from the Kingdom of Eswatini. That's Zwemart On. I'm tracking him there. I see that he is on the line. Let me bring him in conversation before we wrap up for this evening. Zweli, my brother, good evening. Really appreciate you making the time. I mean, I suppose the issues of the Prime Minister that he's now, I suppose the appointment of the new Prime Minister in Eswatini this last Friday, where the King has somewhat appointed him, many political parties have rejected that. But just talk us through, just areas of concern. I mean, I've been looking at the tenures of many of the Prime Ministers there. They vary. I mean, what is the standard tenure of a Prime Minister in the Kingdom of Eswatini?
Thank you for having me on Rise FM. Yes, of course, last Friday, King Mswati III announced the appointment of Russell Miso Dlamini as the new Prime Minister. He was succeeding former Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini, was appointed around July 2021. You will recall that in June 2021, there was a political unrest in Eswatini. And that unrest erupted, of course, after the death of Prime Minister Ambrose Mandvulu Dlamini. So Mr. Russell Miso Dlamini is succeeding a Prime Minister who held the position for only 2 years. And coming back to your question, the prerogative to appoint the Prime Minister or the powers rest upon His Majesty the King, as per the provisions of the Constitution, is among the Maswati to Lutsitsini Palace, as the Constitution stipulates, and he started by urging them to advise him with regards to this appropriate candidate who might hold the position of the Prime Minister. But at the end, he appointed Russell Dlamini, despite that some of the candidates that were suggested by the people inside Lutsitsini were not appointed.
Yeah, so does it raise any eyebrows at the fact that the King, upon appointing the new Prime Minister, he said that this new Prime Minister is not perfect, but he urged the community or the people of, or rather Emaswat, to support him. Does the King signal that there are shortcomings in this Prime Minister when he says he's not perfect?
What really happened, the new Prime Minister was once summoned by Parliament. There's a committee in Parliament known as the Public Accounts Committee, whose core or fundamental duties is to ensure that public funds are accounted for, and he was called to account for about 180 million, and these were the monies donated by the international organization and of course private companies in Eswatini after the eruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those monies were supposed to be distributed to members of the public, but suddenly they disappeared. There were some allegations suggesting that Mr. Russell Dlamini colluded with the royal family, in particular King Mswati, to loot those public funds. So we don't know what King Mswati was referring to when he said no one is perfect, but there are speculation that he knew that after he appointed Mr. Russell Dlamini, we, as the media, we will touch on the scandal because the scandal is fresh. It was discussed in Parliament, and he has an account for the about 180 million as per the request of the Public Accounts Committee in Parliament.
Just briefly before I let you go, my brother, on Saturday, on the 4th of November, the Eswatini government presented a report to Sadak, and they said that they held a successful general elections. I mean, what do you make of that when, as political parties in the kingdom are calling for intervention, mainly from bodies such as Sadak? I mean, do you think that Sadak is missing an opportunity here to intervene in some of the issues that are currently at play in the kingdom?
Yes, the truth of the matter is that the Eswatini government is not, I will say, is telling the truth when it says the elections were successful, free and fair. And as per some of the reports of the African Union and Sadak, and as the media, there's nothing that we can report suggesting that there was violence or intimidation or influence from authorities for people to vote for certain candidates. But in the context of democratic reforms, the elections were not democratic in the sense that political parties were not allowed to participate. They were free and fair in the context of the undemocratic Tingundla system of governance. Of course, when we look overall in as far as democratic process, when it comes to free and fair election, we can say that they were not in line with democratic principles. In fact, in particular, guidelines, Sadak guidelines that stipulate how the elections must be held. When coming back to your question, Sadak must ensure, in fact, Sadak did highlight it in its previous reports, that this election is, in as far as this election might be free, fair and credible, but Sadak recommended that political parties must be allowed to participate to ensure inclusivity in terms of a democratic process to produce a fair and credible government.
Without a doubt. My brother, it's always a great pleasure talking to you and you reflecting in terms of the issues on the ground in the Kingdom of Eswatini. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. That's Zwemart. He's a journalist in the Kingdom of Eswatini. He writes for Swazi News, and be sure to just follow them. And they write great stuff around the Kingdom of Eswatini. They report extensively on what is really going on there. I really appreciate the conversation there. On that front, thank you so much for making time. Coming up next, Thursday, I saw her. She's in the building. She's on standby to take care of you in as far as Rise FM evenings is concerned. From us, it's a good night.